everyone, welcome to my Xian historical travel vlog, where I explain the city's significance so that you get a historical crash course before your trip. In this video, I bike the city walls, shop at night markets, and reveal the Tang Dynasty version of Disneyland, all while explaining the Great Tang Dynasty, its powerful emperors, the Silk Road, Buddhism, and its influence in Asia's world history. This 9-minute video will save you hours on research, so let's get into it. Hey everyone, we just got into Xi'an and we came in through the south gate, the Yongning, and now I'm walking the famous city walls. This used to be the ancient capital of all of China. It used to be called Chang'an and was the capital of the Qin, the Han, the Zhou, the Sui, but most notably the Datang, the Great Tang Dynasty, which was the richest, the most wealthy era of all of Chinese history from 618 to 907 CE. And why is it rich? Why is it wealthy? Well, it was known for the Silk Road, the great land route that connected Europe, the Middle East, to China. Chang'an actually in itself was the last stop in the Silk Road, trading goods, lacquerware, silk, and porcelain, but more importantly, trading of ideas from the Middle East, science and technology, Christianity, and Islam. You could be walking around the Eastern and Western markets at any time, and it would not be surprising to see a Persian, a Sogdian, a Korean, an Indian, a Han Chinese person, an Nestorian Christian, a Muslim. They'd be all walking around trying to trade. All right, so we just rented bikes. It costs around a little less than $7 USD for 3 hours, and we're gonna attempt to bike the entirety of this city wall right here, and let's go. All right, what's up, Andrew? How you doing? Bro, this thing is long, but I think we should be able to get done actually pretty quickly. I don't think it'll take the full time, but I think we can stop by, stop some of these posts. I'm strolling across one right now. We might stop in and take a look. Taking a break right now at the corner tower. We just passed Shangmen Gate, but these were used as defensive positions, and actually a lot of these were rebuilt in the Ming and Qin dynasties and then subsequently rebuilt in the 1980s. Xi'an or Chang'an is located in the Guangdong region, which is in the center of all of China. The reason why Zhongguo or China is called the Middle Kingdom today is because Xi'an literally was in the middle of all of China. It was not too south where it's too hot and tropical. It was not too north where China was endangered by nomadic invaders. Beijing only becomes the capital of China later on in the Ren and Ming dynasties. And so because of that, Xi'an or Chang'an really is the cradle of all Chinese civilization ever since the ancient times. Everywhere we bike around as well, there are these little museums that show calligraphy, paper cutting, Chinese theater, or little artistic small caveats of Chinese civilization, as well as signs displaying weapons or military techniques, including stuff like this. I'm approaching a little arrow silt right here. They would defend against the city walls against raiding invaders like on Lushan. So yes, due to the Silk Road, this was the most cosmopolitan and diverse city in the entire world at the time, but it was also very infamous for its grid-like layout. The city walls made a rectangle structure around, and it was very organized, as there were Buddhist and Taoist temples, there were imperial palaces and offices, and there were the Eastern and Western markets within the city walls itself. So architecturally influential was Chang'an that Japan literally tried to copy everything about this city and the Tang Dynasty. If you look at Japan, Todaiji Temple in Nara today is based off Tang-style architecture, while Kyoto during the Heian period is based off the grid-like structures of Chang'an itself. Don't even get me started with the linguistic and religious influence of Tang Dynasty China. Japan and Korea, they didn't have their own languages at the time, so they borrowed Tang-style lettering and only reformed later on. Buddhism in Korea and Japan took a very Tang style. The very famous Japanese monk Yi Nin came and visited China and literally brought back Chinese texts to influence Japanese Buddhism for the rest of history. Okay, I'll just speak English. Right now we're doing a Chengdu ear picking, ear washing type of thing, which is funny that we're finding this in Xi'an, but I actually was looking really forward to this. I'm not gonna lie, this feels real good. This feels real good, but I'm feeling sensations that I've never felt before in my life. Alright, that ear cleansing was magical, but right now I am at Datang Everbright City wearing my takia or my Muslim hat right here. And right now, on the topic of religion, we're stumbling across the Wild Goose Pagoda and the statue of Xuanzang, or Tripitaka as they call it in the West. Tripitaka's journey single-handedly impacted China's understanding of Buddhism. He leaves China and goes to India, first through Central Asia and then south to India, actually at a time in which leaving the country was very much illegal. He collects a bunch of Indian sutras and interpretations of Indian Buddhism and brings them back into China itself, so much so that the emperor at the time is so impressed that he offers him high government position. So actually the Wild Goose Pagoda today is filled with Indian sutras and interpretations of Indian Buddhism. However, Tripitaka's contributions to Buddhism find itself outside of China very quickly. Shila Korea and Heian era Japan adopting Tang-style Buddhism. He's actually culturally most remembered for his role in Journey to the West, which was written in the Ming Dynasty about this Tang Dynasty travels. This features the Monkey King himself, Sun Wukong, Zubajie, and his buddies, which is now popularized as a kid's cartoon. I could talk about Buddhism all day, but now let's talk about the great monarchs of the Tang Dynasty. A few steps into the Great Tang Mall, you're going to see a mysterious figure right here riding a horse, and that is none other than Tang Taizong, the second emperor of the Tang Dynasty. He's often regarded as the greatest monarch of the Tang Dynasty itself, and because the Tang Dynasty is arguably the best dynasty in Chinese history, there's a case to be made that he's the greatest emperor of all of Chinese history. That's why he's the GOAT! So what exactly did he do? Well, his rule was known as the fair government rule, or Zheng Guan, in which the characters Zheng and Guan are actually plated in the pillar at which he stands. He was very open to criticism. He listened to his ministers at a time in which previous emperors would just kill anyone who challenged them. He also reformed the civil service examination system, opening it up to meritocracy at a time in which it was very nepotist. Secondly, like all good emperors, he achieved great military successes. Not only was he the son of heaven, but he was also the heavenly Khagan as well, defeating the Eastern Turkic Khaganate and defining how westward it meant to be Chinese. But his military success, absorbing the Gansu and modern Xinjiang province, much of the territory that was set by him now exists in the People's Republic of China. This expansion westward was actually pivotal to guarantee safe passage in the Silk Road, as it absorbed a lot of oasis city-states in the Gansu corridor. Your last stop in the Great Tang Ma is going to be right here, the monarch Xuanzong towering above all others. He's regarded in Chinese history as a very good monarch, but in my opinion, he has a lot of shortcomings. He stabilizes Tang authority after the whole Wu Zetian incident, which is good, but a lot of his inept policies actually create military governorships in the northeast, specifically that of An Lushan, creating the An Lushan Rebellion in the 750s. We know the An Lushan Rebellion ends the high end of the Tang Dynasty after a glory period of the first 150 years. The end of his reign is also tainted by that of Yang Guifei, his favorite consort and actually the wife of his son that he forces him to divorce because he was in love with her so much. He really disregards a lot of his imperial duties, and he doesn't set up the next Tang Emperor for anything good. So yes, while Xuanzong inherits a great Tang Dynasty that is relatively stable, he doesn't leave a good Tang Dynasty for the future emperors to come. Alright, so that's the conclusion of Datang Everbright City. Hope you enjoyed these stories about the monarchs and the Tang Dynasty. I'm gonna go home because it's 11 p.m. now to get some rest, but I hope you guys enjoy this story and make sure to subscribe to my channel. See you guys. Hey everyone, it's a brand new day in Xi'an. It's a little gloomy today, but that's okay. Right now I'm in Tang Paradise, which is right next to Datang Everbright City. Previously we had talked about the formations of Chang'an, the Silk Road, great monarchs, and the spread of Buddhism from India to China. But today I want to focus on the urban life in the capital city. So now the question is, what were ordinary people doing in the capital city of Chang'an during the Tang Dynasty? Actually, a lot of what I'm discussing right now and what I discussed yesterday comes from the book A Cosmopolitan Empire, written by Mark Edward Lewis, who is currently a professor of Chinese history at Stanford University. First, Chang'an as a political center. If you wanted a government position or any chance of social mobility, you had better pass the civil service examination. Civil service exams were based off Confucian classics like the Analects, and so young men from all over the country wanted to live in Chang'an to attend a very prestigious academy like the Hanlin Academy of Scholars for a chance to take this exam and hopefully pass it. In fact, a lot of these exams were unfortunately nepotist at the time, but great emperors like Tang Taizong and Empress Wu Zetian made it more meritocratic so that anyone could have a chance at passing these exams. Outside of politics, Chang'an exploded culturally. The best poetry of all of Chinese history was written in the Tang era by very famous poets like Li Bai and Du Fu. They wrote about anything and literally everything: nature, landscapes, government life, urban life, etc. I went to Chinese school in America, and Li Bai's very famous poem, 床前明月光, is literally ingrained in my head. I've been walking around for a while, and guess who I stumbled across? Sun Wukong, the Monkey King, Zhuba Jie, and Xuanzang on their journey to the west to learn more about Buddhism. This sculpture is absolutely magnificent, it's giant, and it touches me in the heart because I watched these cartoons as a kid in Chinese school. There's also a really odd relationship between civil service exam takers and women of the dynasty. A lot of women took on jobs like entertainers and prostitutes and courtesans, and according to Mark Edward Lewis, they would distract a lot of these civil service exam takers because yes, they were very beautiful. However, it was no longer sufficient just to be hot. You now needed to be hot and smart in the Tang Dynasty because as arts and culture proliferated, those who could seduce men were often those who could sing and perform those of the literary classics. And of course, for these women as well, they wanted to seduce a lot of civil service exam takers because that was the way they achieved social mobility. 现在我们就是想要先访问你，可以说明你现在穿的唐朝的服装是有什么意义的吗？可以介绍给我们的美国的 viewers 一下吗？
现在我穿的这个是唐朝比较有特色的服饰，然后就是它的象征就是大唐盛世，然后是一种贵妃的服饰其中之一。我又很欢迎外国朋友来西安来体验一下不同的大清文化、唐朝文化都有，这里面的历史都在这里。
Thank you.
欢迎欢迎。
So it's gotten dark in Tang Paradise, but essentially I just interviewed two women introducing their Tang style dress, the Hanfu. And as I walk around, there actually is a lot of people taking pictures around with their Hanfus, but it's completely just different at night walking around. There are lights kind of illuminated all over surrounding the perimeter of the pond, and then also the buildings are all lit up, which is really, really pretty. But essentially I also just went into a show showing the history of the drum from the Tang Dynasty to the Qing Dynasty. It's like, think of Disneyland here. It's so big and you can walk around, but just like historically and culturally. There was also a pond performance, a water show, starting around 7:45. So I looked a little bit at that, but I'm heading toward the exit now, just kind of remembering this might be my favorite part of Xi'an actually. It's just so beautiful. All right, so I'm gonna end the video now, but if you enjoyed or learned something historically, please like, comment, and subscribe. It means a lot just to hit that like button and subscribe as I'm trying to grow this channel. Thanks for joining me on my adventures in Xi'an, and I'll see you later.
飘飘，北风萧萧。